Again, I'm Jack Lavino, and I'm a psychotherapist specializing in addiction and trauma. And what I wanted to talk with you today about is my passion for interventions and for not being silent, which I'll get into a little later. My story starts working with Kemper Insurance Companies in the 60s. I was assistant advertising manager. And Jim Kemper, who was president of the company at the time, was a recovering alcoholic, and we put out these pamphlets. One was about the 20 questions. I only answered 2 questions at that time, because if you answered 3, that meant you were an alcoholic. And I only drank heavily because of the pressure of work, the pressure from my wife, etc., etc. Then I was transferred to Washington, D.C. as a lobbyist. And I actually went to, this is how crazy it is, I actually went to Washington to be a lobbyist and to stop drinking. And Washington is the hallowed ground of alcoholics, by the way.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure
But anyway, I started dating this woman named Meg. And Meg was a nurse at Georgetown Hospital. And I was in love with her. And on Easter Sunday, 1972, she invited me to her parents' house for dinner, and her parents were White House chefs. And I had this sumptuous meal, and wine, and scotch, and wine. And she drove me home, and the next morning I called her, and I said, I'm sorry, and it was like the hundreds of times I had said, I'm sorry to my ex-wife because of my alcoholism. And Meg, God love her, said to me, Jack, you were drunk and I'm not going to have anything to do with you as long as you drink. And I said, that's it, I'm going to call AA today. And so I called AA and I called a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist cost too much and wanted to put me on medication. So I started an AA over 40 years ago. And I am very grateful to Meg for intervening with me. I call it intervention. Because it's silence that kills people with addictions. I had been in 2 accidents. One, I was going the wrong way on a 3-lane highway coming out of Washington, D.C., going to Alexandria, Virginia. And the other was on Capitol Hill, and I drove my car up on the sidewalk and shined the lights into dry cleaners to see if they were still open at 10 o'clock at night. And they weren't. But fortunately, there were no police around, and I got away with that one. But I was dangerous in the car, and I could have easily been killed. And so my real passion is I really have spent my last 40 years, I've been a professional for about that time, breaking the misconception about alcoholism and interventions. This is what most people think of alcoholic. You just go downtown and you see the bums on Pearl Street and whatnot and say, well, those are the alcoholics. You know, my sister isn't, or my husband isn't, etc., etc. And people tend to not think that a young woman like this can also be alcoholic. Or people of any age can be alcoholic. And so I go back to Kemper Insurance and having to do these 20 questions. And that was an intervention. That was an education. With Meg, for example, I would sneak drinks, so that made 3. I would minimize how much I drank, telling how much I drank. That would make 4. Then there was the car accident, then there was this, then there was that. And by the time I finally got to AA, I could answer 20, I could answer about 18 of those questions. So that was an intervention. I view addiction differently than a lot of people. I see addiction as a love disorder. I have seen over the years, both in my own work with myself as well as other people, that addiction starts in childhood. It starts from a love disorder where our hearts are broken, either by neglect or abuse, or having expectations that are too great for us to meet. And it's a broken heart that people are trying to heal with whatever the addiction is. And what the addiction does, it takes away the pain. I'm working with a young man right now, and nothing he does, his father doesn't approve of anything he does. He's a hockey player, so if he got 2 goals, he should have got 3 goals. If he checked one guy, he should have knocked the guy out instead of just leveling him. Nothing he can do to please his father. I mean, he's in treatment right now. Thank God. This is what we think of as intervention if you watch TV shows. It's being mad at the person who's alcoholic or drug addicted and telling them that if you don't stop drinking and get into treatment, we're going to leave you. We're going to send you, put you out on the street. Well, that just confirms for the person that they're not worthwhile. And those people, those interventions, about 50% of the time the people will go to treatment. And about 50% of those who go to treatment will make it 1 year sober. With the love approach that I use, 80% of people go to treatment and 60% stay in treatment. So they're coming from a place of love, and an intervention is very important. So this is the way I do interventions. First, I give people a 30-minute consult to determine the extent of the problem and what action might take. And we really want to break the silence again. And so I meet with the intervention team, which could be family members, employers, employees, etc., friends. And I coach them because I want them to write a love letter to the person when we do the intervention. And the love letter isn't, gushy. The love letter is, I really love you and I really care about you, and I see you going down the tubes, and I just want you to get help. That's what we're talking about. And so the more people we can do that with, the better. My first intervention 30 plus years ago was within Kemper Insurance Companies, and this executive, we brought his wife and his boss and teenage kids in, and the guy was really resistant until his 16-year-old daughter says, "Dad," and she starts crying, "Dad, I want you to be the dad you were 10 years ago. I want you to be the dad I was when you were when I was a little girl. I don't want you out on the porch singing in the middle of the night some stupid song and waking the neighbors." He said, "What do you want me to do?" And if he's still sober, he's been sober about 30 years now. So the presentation to the intervention is done with love and with caring. And the purpose, a lot of people think the purpose of the intervention is to get people into treatment, and that is one of the goals. But the purpose of the intervention really is to get the silence, to do away with the silence, and to get the problem on the table so people can deal with it. And so family members or bosses or fellow workers aren't tiptoeing around the person. The other reason why we don't want people angry is that once you get angry with an addict, you are gone. They will manipulate you. You will leave that session feeling that you are the worst person in the world. And they will just do it by mannerisms and the way they speak to you, etc., etc. So love is the way. So we do the intervention for whatever. Maybe we plant the seed. I've had people who were in intervention and they said, "Nah, this isn't for me," and 6 months later they were in treatment. Have people go right to treatment. Now we also have people go to AA. So we want to take people on the least, whatever they're willing to do as far as to break the cycle. Because once you break the cycle, then you have a chance at recovery. Are there any questions?
Oh, at 8 seconds left, they're very impressive. That was a tremendous presentation.